Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit loses back-to-backs to the Coyotes and Golden Knights and have now lost 5 in a row.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast, while Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And Scotty, this weekend sucked. Just sucked, dude.
It was really bad from the Wings' perspective. Yes, not awesome. If you want to read up on the high school hockey state title games, those were on Saturday. I was at USA Arena in Plymouth all weekend, and it was a blast. There was a triple overtime state title game, so that's. Cranbrook got the win there, so you can see all my write-ups on that if you're interested in maybe some fun hockey, unless you went to one of the schools that lost, I guess. But yeah, from the Wings' perspective at the pro level, not a great weekend for Detroit hockey for sure.
I cannot believe you would use our podcast as a platform for self-promotion. I would never do such thing. I would never do anything like that. But seriously, go read Scotty's stuff. He's a great writer. And high school hockey, and I mean, don't underestimate high school hockey in Michigan. It slaps,
it's so
dude.
cool, man. And hearing all the kids, I know we got to move on, but hearing all the kids say,
"Do we though? We got to move on?"
Right. I feel you. A lot of the kids will say, like the seniors will say, like play high school hockey, and like be big advocates for it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I don't know, Scotty. I really didn't want to record this episode. I was tempted to text you and be like, let's use our monthly skip for this day. Just because, like,
I don't
obviously
think we used last one either. Yeah.
The feeling around the team right now is bad. And the feeling in the fan base is even worse. And like I've made a point to stay off of Twitter and try not to read our comments because and rightfully so to a certain extent, right? They're so dour. And I just can't handle it. And especially off the high that we just came off of, like people are so quick to forget the 6-game winning streak and the 2 months of success. But at the same time, that does not excuse a 5-game losing streak that was extended this weekend against the Coyotes and against the Golden Knights. And I guess we'll start chronologically because normally when the Wings play back-to-backs, we try to marry the two games and talk about the weekend as a whole. I mean, that just is what makes sense. But these two games, while they both ended up being losses for the Detroit Red Wings, they kind of came about slightly differently. And the Arizona game in particular was just an embarrassment because that was the day that it was, right? We came on the air. So
I was laughing. I literally was laughing. I was like, haha, you should probably win tonight. Haha. Like that was genuinely, I was like giggling. I was like, yeah, you ought to win. And yeah.
They didn't. They did not even did they not win. They weren't in the game.
They looked. I think you tweeted it actually. I don't usually like your tweets, but
wow.
I think you for real though. I think you said something where you were like they just look completely disinterested or something along those lines in the first period, and that's exactly how I would summarize at least the first period, and then the ice kind of like tilted, and I thought the Wings kind of tried to bounce back and they just couldn't. And it ended up in a 4-0 loss in Arizona to the Yotes, man. Just awful.
Yeah, I mean, and that's my difference maker for the game against the Arizona Coyotes is that first period. That first period was absolutely abysmal. And like you just said, they did look disinterested. Honestly, I don't know what it was. I don't know if they underestimated the Yotes because we talked about it on Friday's episode. This was a team in the Coyotes that had lost like 16 of their last 18 and had just gotten off a 14-game losing streak. Or if they just like the other part of me is like, okay, they've lost 3 in a row. Maybe they're coming out and trying to slow the game down and trying to get back to the fundamentals. And the Coyotes were aggressive and that challenged that approach of wanting to play slow. That's me trying to make an excuse for the Wings first period, because I honestly am watching it and I cannot figure out how a team even without Larkin, and we'll talk about losing Larkin and the hole that hole has been felt on this team. But even without Larkin, like this is a team in the Coyotes, like I just said, that had lost 14 in a row, that had just sold at the deadline. Meanwhile, your general manager in Steve Yzerman had basically said on a press conference hours beforehand that like this team has the depth it needs to make the playoffs on its own. And then you got went out there, you got
first
clowned.
period intermission.
Oh, that was tough.
When the Wings were losing and getting shut out by the Coyotes in Arizona, and Steve Yzerman is on Bally in the intermission going, yeah, the defense needs to be better, and the goal is to make the postseason. That is humiliating.
Yeah. And it's just, and like to your credit, right? Like I know I got to ask you what your difference maker is too, but just that they did play hard in the second period. And this is something that this team has shown a resilience into doing and showed itself again in the Golden Knights game. They come back, they're adjusted, they come back and they fight hard. But I'm getting really sick and tired of the team having to mount a comeback. It's not a sustainable way of winning. In fact, you look at the 6-game winning streak that they had, 3 of those wins came in overtime, right? Like they have got to find a way to get ahead early and trying to maintain maintain that lead. And so, I mean, again, my difference maker against Arizona was just that first period was abysmal, and it cannot happen against one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, no, I that's obviously one that we both agree with. I think that first period kind of slow start type of play has been something that not only we've been talking about for most of this season, but you can go back the last couple of seasons, and that's something that we continue to bring up about this team. And it's obviously really, really good that they are never out of it, and always, you always have something in the back of your mind that's like, oh, like we have the ability to come back from this here in the third. But it would be really great if, especially against teams that are of the caliber of the Yotes, to not have to put yourself in that position. My difference maker is goaltending, not only for the Red Wings side but for both teams. Obviously Lyon got the nod in this one. Not his best day at the office. I think there's probably a bigger picture goalie conversation to be had at this point. Just hasn't looked as good as he did, during that incredible month of January, and obviously for most of February as well. But Ingram for Arizona was also made a lot of really, really nice saves. And like we both have said, the ice kind of tilted in the second, and he really stood on his head and I think almost faced 30 shots, 28, 29 shots. And had a really, really nice game for Arizona. So credit where credit is due. Certainly not, an excuse for the Wings to not have put up a goal against one of the worst teams in hockey. But I think for me, the difference maker for both teams, just as a collective, was goaltending.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to head to a quick break here, Scott. We're going to go a little early so we can come back, hit the notable performances, and then transition into the Knights game. We got a lot to cover in this one because there's 2 games that happen. So bless the fact that we get to do an abbreviated like when 2 losses like that happen, it's like, okay, well, we don't have to talk about it either.
You don't have to spend long. 30 on one. Right. We get to talk about 2. Right.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in segments 2 and 3. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. I got to talk to you guys today about Gametime. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind when you purchase tickets. You see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you show up. All-in prices show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out, and you can buy those tickets in seconds with 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. With zone deals, you can pick the section, and Gametime picks the seats for big-time savings, and the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you not just 100, but 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime guarantee. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and you redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're going to head into our notable performances aspect of this game. And, you mentioned Connor Ingram as having a really good game. He did, but I think he was helped out tremendously by the Red Wings' crap puck luck. And that's not the word I want to use, but we're family friendly. The puck luck the Red Wings had in this game was absolutely abysmal. I mean, how many shots did DeBrincat take? He had 4 shots in this game, and that's not even the one he counting where he missed the empty net on the one-timer. He hit the post. Obviously, early in the third, Raymond goes in, beats a couple Coyotes, gets in alone with Ingram, and then he floats it over Ingram's shoulder, and it just touches the top of the crossbar and comes back down. And everyone, Coyotes broadcast and Red Wings broadcast, thought that went top net down. But nope, on replay, hit crossbar. Like, the Red Wings had a plethora of opportunities. They hit the post on the power play, too. Sherratt made a nice feed to David Perron, and just nothing for the Detroit Red Wings was finding the back of the net. And I'm not using that as an excuse for why they lost. They lost mostly because they had an abysmal first period and found themselves down 3-0 early. But in the second period, where the Red Wings dominated that game, like, you could look at the heat map, you can look at expected goals for percentage, you can, of course, see for percentage. Red Wings dominated the second period especially. They had almost a 66% share of the shot attempts. They had a 75% share of the expected goals, and they had a 72% chance or share of the shot scoring chances for percentage at 5-on-5. They dominated the second period, and all their shots were coming from down low right in front of Connor Ingram, and nothing was going in. So, yeah, number one, right? Lazy first. You cannot come out and play that disinterested against the Arizona Coyotes. But number two is like, okay, well, then they played good enough to maybe warrant a couple goals for themselves, and thus luck wasn't going their way.
Yeah, no, 100%. Again, we talked about it in the first two, like that second period was a good period from the Wings. Just couldn't find the back of the net for that, and for solid goaltending, etc.
Yep. Another one notable performance, team defense altogether, also not helping Lyon out. That's been a huge issue. Let me take a step back from team defense. Even that. But the defense starts in the offensive zone too, right? With the forecheck. And this is something we've brought up time and time again. One of the big reasons why this team cannot find success right now is they're not getting the puck. And that sounds like, oh yeah, no crap. But like, they get hemmed in the defensive zone. And so they're caught chasing because when the puck, their Coyotes or whatever team they're facing is just passing the puck along the boards, making passes. The Red Wings are not intercepting those passes. They're not winning the race to the pucks in the corners. They're not winning the board battles. So you spend 30 seconds to 45 seconds in your own zone, chasing, just trying to make something happen. So you finally get the puck out, right? You finally get it to center ice, but now you're exhausted from playing defense that entire shift. So you dump and change. All that means is, okay, now I'm giving you possession to come back down, and the Red Wings cannot stop the play in the neutral zone. They cannot stop the play on the zone entries, and then it all starts over again. The Red Wings cannot win possession, and that's part of the team defense issue. But then also, this team is not fast enough. You have 2 players on this team with actual legitimate speed, and that is Veleno and Dylan Larkin. Larkin, who, of course, is hurt right now. I'm so sick and tired of watching this team try to dump and chase the puck. Every single time, that's another thing, right? I talk about the dump and change, but when they do come up the ice with the same shift that's out there, the same line that's out there, they hit the blue line and they hit the red line, and they just dump it in and try to chase after it, but they lose the race every single time. And then if they manage to create a board battle for the puck after losing the race, they lose the battle, and then the other team comes out. That was an issue against, obviously, the Avalanche. That was an issue against the Coyotes, and it's been an issue against the Golden Knights. Like, the forecheck isn't strong enough. There's not enough speed, and then the team defense is just not being supportive enough. The forwards aren't helping. The defense are puck watching. Just everything right now in this 5-game losing streak is honestly the complete opposite. And we've seen a couple of these issues, but they've been able to be good in other areas. But the team defense right now is just not good enough to make up for those deficiencies. Everything that was working for them in the 6-game win streak is just not working right now.
Yeah, well, and that's a great point, because we talked often when they were winning and when they were buzzing about how the forecheck looked really good and was our reason for a lot of their success, and the team defense that came along with that was obviously very helpful. And, we talked a lot about like when Lyon was really like firing on all cylinders and was having his incredible stretch there. We talked a lot about how the team defense looked as well, and that, we were consistently pushing shots to the outside, didn't allow a lot of high danger. There's a lot of low danger opportunities that he had to face, and that's just been completely flipped on his head. I mean, in both of these games, but now if we still want to keep talking about Arizona, like that was obviously Lyon not in net for Vegas, but like that was noticeable, especially obviously again in the first period. I mean, they and that's been something again the last 3 or 4 losses we've been talking about. Like, wow, they opponents are just kind of waltzing into the slot or even right in front of the net with kind of relative ease, and that's obviously been a huge difference from where they were defensively, in January and February.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll mention about this game, because we got to move on, and I wish we could go into like specific player performances, because it was one of those ones where like everyone played bad, at least especially in the first period, so it's hard to like.
Yeah.
But Alex Lyon, we kind of touched on him a little bit in the first, but just as an added thing, like he's coming down a little bit from his incredible. He was never going to stay as incredible as he was. Like he got hot last year, he stayed a lot hotter this year, but now we're starting to see the workload get to him. And he still made big saves against the Coyotes, but he also made a couple, or didn't make a couple, where he probably should have. Like the Logan Cooley power play goal, there's 2 things, right? Both Woolman and Kopp should have been able to intercept and interrupt that pass across. But Alex Lyon had hardcore overcommitted to the right side. He did not give him enough time and space to lateral back over. That shot by Cooley was not a rocket by any stretch of the imagination. Cooley had to really twist his body to get that shot off on net. And Lyon was too committed to the right side. And that's something I've noticed a few times with Alex Lyon is he's overcommitting a little bit to one side, and he's leaving himself vulnerable on the back door, which again, when it comes to backdoor stuff, your defense has got to help you out, whether it be the forward or the defenseman. They have got to cover that backdoor slot, but you also have to give yourself a chance if that pass makes it. So I'm not trying to say Alex Lyon's toast by any stretch of the imagination, but I've definitely noticed he's letting in some where before he'd make incredible saves. And I mean, that's just was going to happen eventually, right?
Yeah. Well, and again, there's probably a bigger picture kind of goalie conversation to be had at some point here. Maybe we can have that this week when we have more time. But yeah, not that, I'm kicking Lyon out of the spot. I think, you look around the goalie room, you still probably got to ride with him. But I think there was a thought that he was, I don't know, able to do this for like years, or was like the goalie going forward, like permanently or whatever. And I think, he has really good stretches, and he has stretches that look more like this. And that's kind of been the story of his career. So hopefully the defense can help him out, because that was a really big factor as to why he was doing so well. Obviously, he being the biggest factor, he was incredible, but I think that the defense has really let him out to dry here the last 5.
Yeah. You mean like when Shane Gostisbehere lost the net front battle again, and
Yes.
was it McBain tipped that puck home? It's like, you got to win the net front. You cannot let guys just skate in front. Like he had the guy in front of him, tied him up, and then proceeded to just let him coast to the front screen line and tip the shot home. Like you got Gostisbehere. And I'm not trying to pick specifically on Gostisbehere, although I have picked on his defensive side of the puck a lot. But it's everyone. Like you got to get these guys out of the lanes in front of the net. I'm tired of seeing tipped shots. And there was another one, of course, and that one was just fluky. I won't blame anyone in particular. The tipped shot that went in on Reimer against Vegas, but transitioning to the Vegas game, like it was a much higher effort. I thought the Red Wings came out and at the first 5 minutes of the game were really buzzing, and I was like, maybe this is they lost when they shouldn't. Maybe this is the one they win that they shouldn't. And then a bad turnover led to a really bad goal by James Reimer. Just a shot that never left the ice, skated right between his pads and in through the 5-hole. And you're like, yikes. And then from there, it was just from there until the end of the first, it was all Vegas. I think the first period ended shots like 17-4.
Oh,
and
the shots the entire game, the entire first half of the game were really, really gross. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, difference maker. I would say goaltending in the game against the Vegas Golden Knights. I did not feel inspired by any of what I saw from James Reimer, but of course that goes back to what we always say when we talk about goaltending. It's like there's 5 other players in front of him that got to help out. But when you're letting in 5 whole shots when on their like first or second shot of the game, like, okay, now you're really not helping your team win a game.
Yeah. My difference maker's the patch, Brian. I'm kidding. I'm
No,
kidding. I'm
dude,
kidding. Calm
do
down. Calm
not.
down. Calm down. Calm down. It's okay. It's a prank, bro. It's a prank. It's a prank. My difference maker actually, this is kind of a cop out, but this was the first game that I really thought, if Dylan Larkin was playing, the Red Wings win. That I think that's the first game that I really, really felt like it was close. It was a tie game in what the end of the
Twice.
second or the early third. Yeah,
It was tied twice in the third period.
yeah. So this was a game that I really, and again, like, not that one player should be an excuse for a 5-game losing streak. It's not, and they've gotten throttled in 3 of them. So, like, definitely not. With Larkin, these are drastically different type of scenarios. But this was really the first game in this entire stretch. Looking back, yeah, I mean, again, 3 absolute blowouts in that 5-game stretch too. So this was really the first one that I went, damn, like if
We had Larkin.
if Dylan Larkin was here, man, like this feels like a different outcome kind of game.
Yeah, for sure. We have to take our second break, and when we return, we'll finish up our thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights loss, and then kind of just give you our main takeaways from the weekend going forward. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you a bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We gave you our difference makers for the game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Now let's kind of go into our notable performances as we go. Again, it's going to be abbreviated as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, just overall, I thought the team started strong. Then they faded in the first, and then they mounted a comeback. I think my first notable performance, I guess I got to give it to Moritz Seider, right? He had 2 apples in this game. He 2 shots from the points. It's hard to give him too much credit because he kind of just sent it towards the net. But they were more of notable performances, fantastic tips from Michael Rasmussen and JT Compher to climb the Red Wings back into it. They fought tooth and nail to get back into that game twice. But those 2 tip shots from out front really got them back into the game, tied it up 2-2. But I mean, again, they didn't necessarily look good at any point in this hockey game besides the first 5 minutes before that turnover for a goal against. So it's hard to, like, even when looking at notable performances, it's just really hard to, like, pinpoint any one person in particular. I think the one thing you can say, right, like, obviously Jake Wellman was scratched in this game for coach's decision, kind of sending a statement after he had a really bad game against Coyotes. Everyone did, but he did as well. I think trying to send a message that none of you guys are safe type thing. So Justin Holl was in, and I don't know. I don't know, Scotty. I'm floundering right now because I'm watching this game and I'm thinking about everything that happened in this game. And, like, I was so excited every time they bounced back and tied the game up, but I just never felt like they were going to win it. At one point I was like, maybe they can get a point, because even when they never felt like they were the better team in that hockey game, except for the first 5 minutes before Reimer let an easy one in.
No, yeah, you're 100% right. They looked like they were getting dominated, to be honest, for a majority of this hockey game. Vegas had all the pressure consistently was in the Red Wings zone. Even when the Red Wings were able to get it out of the zone, there was 0 zone entry this entire hockey game, except for maybe a little bit there at the start of the third period. Yeah, man, I get, like, I thought JT Compher looked really good. I think that was a game where it was, I don't know, I noticed how good he played, which I feel like we haven't maybe highlighted too much in the last, I don't know, several weeks. So I thought he looked really good, little chippy as well, got into a scrum there. But yeah, I I don't know. Like I'm looking down
Right.
the box score, and I'm like, oh, maybe there's someone who like I'm trying to jog my memory, and I want to like really point out. No, like
Sh-
I hope that Michael Rasmussen's okay. I'm not sure if we've gotten an update yet at the time of this recording, at least.
Not as of 1:18 on Sunday. We have not got an update
Yeah.
as to Michael Rasmussen's condition. And that's part of what I was going to mention too. Like Michael Rasmussen had his best game in a while, actually, in this hockey
Yeah, it
game.
was
I feel like
great.
he looked good on the third line, and that's where he belongs. Like that, whenever he's on the third line, he shows up and shows out. And he looked really good. Obviously, he got the goal, his 13th of the season. But then that bad puck luck, it snuck back in again. And that's part of it. Like the Red Wings had just tied it up, and then they come down, they shoot the puck off of Michael Rasmussen's wrist, and he immediately is in pain. And then while he's hunched over in so much pain, they score a goal. And it's just like, are you... And I'm getting them twisted in my head. There are 2 goals in the third period. Was that also the goal that went off of Moritz Seider's jersey and changed direction just enough to beat James Reimer? Because there was a shot from the point that...
Yeah, I don't remember if that was the Rasmussen goal or not. But that was, I mean, I don't think it was.
So my point being, regardless, though, is like the puck luck was bad between Rasmussen getting hurt and them scoring immediately. The puck that went off of Moritz Seider's jersey, like brushed it just enough for it to change direction. Or how about when the game was tied at 3-3, Scotty, and the Red Wings had 3 opportunities. Lucas Raymond breakaway, couldn't stuff it home. Petrie came in on the rebound, couldn't stuff it home. It came out again for Andrew Kopp, couldn't stuff it home. The Red Wings at that point, if they could have buried that puck, would have had a lead in this hockey game. And so like that puck luck, and I'm not trying to blame puck luck, but those are the things that when the Red Wings were succeeding were going their way. Puck luck was definitely going their way. And one of the things that they've lost among the way, like this is when we talk about the overall, and I guess real quick, I'll just say special teams actually had a good game again for once, which is nice. 1 power play goal was perfect on penalty kill. That was not the case in Arizona. It hadn't been the case at all. But I mean, across this 5-game losing streak, they've lost 5 in a row. Their playoff position is slipping, which we have to talk about before we end this episode. And in every single game that they've lost, they've allowed 4 or more goals against, which just goes, again, reinforces the team defense aspect of it. But also when they get the puck in the offensive zone, because going back to what I ranted about in segment 2, where because they're hemmed into their own zone for so long, they have to immediately change. They're not getting offensive zone time either. They're not getting in the zone. One thing that led them to having so
enter
much
the zone when they do have the puck either. It's
exactly
just all a disaster.
One of the things that led to their success so much in the offensive zone was having the ability to create opportunities. And that is something that they have not been able to do because of what I just said in segment 2 about getting hemmed in, dump and chase hockey. They haven't gotten the opportunity to be creative like they were when they were succeeding. And so it's all coming together and coalescing for this 5-game slide. And this team is just, I mean, December was awful when you lost Larkin the first time. There was also, of course, different factors. But then January and February, you were fantastic. Now March, you're 0-for-5 to start March again. So you got to get right the ship at some point, unless you want to just completely collapse and be last year's Ottawa Senators, And that's the thing, right? Like the Senators were poised to make the playoffs but had a sluggish start and then fell apart down the stretch. It's like do you want to be last year's Ottawa Senators?
Yeah,
I'm sure the team doesn't give a crap.
No one in this fan base wants to be the Ottawa Senators, I promise you. Yeah, man, the goals against in this 5-game streak are 5-4-7-4-5.
Another hat trick against 2.
Not great.
Cal McCarr against Colorado. Now Marcia Show.
Empty netter at the end, whatever. But
still, I mean, optically, it's
no,
just not great.
I get it.
And like, so now we're at a point too where, so our main takeaways are obviously this team needs Dylan Larkin. 2, the team is frazzled and they have got to settle it down. They need practice. They need a couple practices, which thankfully, I mean, they're going to Buffalo, so one of these is going to be a travel day, but they're going to have a day to practice because they don't play again until Tuesday. So they're going to have an opportunity to try and fix things. They've had a couple practices in the stretch, and then they hasn't fixed things, but they just desperately need a practice. And then now you're looking at the playoff picture. You're in the second wild card because Tampa Bay won and they surpassed you. You're 2 points up on the Islanders, who play twice before the Red Wings play again on Tuesday. They put back-to-backs against Anaheim and LA Sunday and Monday. And by the time people are listening to this, they'll know the results probably of the Sunday game. So there's a very real possibility, but that by the time the Red Wings play again on Tuesday, they are on the outside looking in. for a team that at one point had like about an 8-point buffer between them and the next team on the outside looking in. Like that is kind of an epic collapse.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It is. And the one thing you pointed out before we hit record that, the next 5 games for the Wings is a lot easier than the schedule they've kind of had, which at least is some silver lining. And then after that 5-game stretch, the game 6 from now is against the Islanders. So these next 6 games are going to be really, really, really huge for the Red Wings.
Yeah. So your next 6 games, Buffalo, and again, the Red Wings just lost to Arizona, right? So like you can't, none of these at this point, with how this team is playing,
for sure.
with Larkin out and how this team is playing, none of these are guaranteed wins. But they are opportunities against teams that you are better than to get right. So Buffalo, obviously Tuesday, you got Coyotes at home again, and a chance to get payback after a thumping on the road. Buffalo again at home. Pittsburgh on the road. Pittsburgh sold. It looks like they're done. They're trying to be done. Of course, you never know. Teams like to play spoilers. The Blue Jackets, who are at home, or you're at home against the Blue Jackets, then the Islanders at home. And the Islanders, that's a 4-point game. So this you have an opportunity these next 5-6 games to get yourself right, get back into the swing of things. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go on another 6-game heater, but if you can win 4 of those 6, I'll be a happy camper. I don't even know if 500, 3-3 with where this team has, what they've done to themselves is acceptable right now. Like you're in a spot now where you're banking on the Islanders to lose a couple games. That is something we weren't talking about 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, we were like, they control their own destiny. Just keep doing your business and you don't have to worry about anyone behind you. Well, guess what? Now you got to worry about the teams behind you because you went on a 5-game L streak. The season's not over. We've seen this team go through ebbs and flows. Like they went on a 2-month heater, right, to get themselves into a position where Yzerman didn't have to sell. But now show Yzerman that he was right to not sell. Show Yzerman he was right to stand pat. Show some heart. Show some soul. Win some hockey games. I mean, our expectations
love to win a hockey game again,
right? Like our expectations in the season going in were be the last team on the outside looking in, or be the last team in the playoffs, or be the first team on the outside looking in. You know what I meant?
Yeah.
And right now they're still on pace to do that, but I'd love for them to not come to that conclusion by epically collapsing towards the end of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a lot different perspective when you're like consistently in the race and whatever versus you had an 8-point cushion at one point, in early March. That's a lot different. So yeah, I walk before we can run. I don't even want to look at like big picture and what I expect out of 5. Let's just get a win under our belt, and then we can start having a conversation about what the games following look like. I would like to just get back on the horse.
Get back on the horse, absolutely. Last thing, Jonathan Berggren played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was give and take. He had some really bad turnovers, but he also drew 2 penalties, one of which led to a power play goal. So,
yeah.
He had a Corsi for percentage of 71%, 12 attempts for, 5 against when he was on the ice at 5-on-5 in this game. But a couple bad turnovers, a couple really bad passes, not great defensively, but drew a couple penalties. So it's gonna take him a couple games to get into the swing of things. I'm not gonna kill him on the first game back, but I just was like, okay, he's kind of hit and miss in this game.
Yeah, we'll see. It would obviously be great to have production from him. So,
all right. God, I did not want to do this episode, Scotty.
Yeah, no, winning and fun episodes are way more enjoyable.
Yep. Well, hopefully we get back to winning soon.
That'd be great, man.
What are we going to talk about tomorrow, dude? I'm going to figure that out.
We can talk about goalie.
We can talk about high school hockey.
I guess. Season's over.
Season's over for the Red Wings, too.
All right, calm down, dude. Thanks for making us your first listen. We ball.
Right. We ball. Be
Word.
back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Your team.
Every day.
Every day. That's the wrong one.